In the land of Judah, a heavy silence hung over the people. The sun rose each morning, but its light felt muted. The once vibrant fields, known for their abundance, now lay desolate. A great plague of locusts had swept through the land, consuming everything in their path. The crops that sustained families were gone. The pastures that once bloomed with life now lay barren and brown. It was a time of mourning and despair, and the people were searching for answers. Amidst this devastation, a prophet named Joel arose. His name means Yahweh is God, and he was chosen to deliver a message of both warning and hope. He stood before the people with a heart burdened for their plight. Joel called for them to listen, to awaken from their stupor. He wanted them to understand that this was not just a natural disaster. This was a divine call to repentance. "Gather, you elders, and all who live in the land," Joel proclaimed. "Has anything like this ever happened in your days or in the days of your ancestors? Tell your children about it, and let your children tell their children, and their children the next generation." With these words, he revealed the gravity of the situation. This calamity was a sign, a wake-up call from God himself. The people, sensing the urgency in Joel's voice, began to reflect. They realized that their hearts had drifted from God. They had become complacent, seeking their own ways rather than following the path he had laid out. The locusts had eaten through their harvests, but more importantly, they had eaten away at their very souls. Joel urged them to return to the Lord with all their hearts. He called for fasting, weeping, and mourning. "Rend your hearts and not your garments," he implored. It was not enough to show sorrow on the outside. True repentance required sincerity on the inside. The people cried out for mercy, understanding that this was a pivotal moment in their lives. As the people humbled themselves, they began to turn their hearts back to God. They gathered in the temple, seeking his presence. It was there that they found hope. Joel assured them that God was gracious and compassionate, slow to anger and abounding in love. He would not leave them to their suffering. The Lord could restore what the locusts had eaten. This promise resonated deeply within the hearts of the people. Joel spoke of the future. He described a time when God would pour out his Spirit on all people. "Your sons and daughters will prophesy, your old men will dream dreams, and your young men will see visions." This was a time of revival, of renewal. God was not just concerned with their present troubles, he had a beautiful future planned for them. The promise of restoration began to unfold. God would bless the land again. The dry fields would become filled with grain, and the valleys would overflow with abundance. They would eat in plenty and be satisfied. This image of restoration filled the people with hope. It was a reminder that God could bring life back into what seemed dead. With renewed faith, they began to see the signs of change. The skies darkened with the promise of rain. The wind began to stir. The land responded to the call of God. The locusts faded into memory, and the rains fell gently at first, then poured down, soaking the soil. Blossoms of green began to emerge where once only dust had ruled. As Joel proclaimed these blessings, he also urged the people to remain faithful. They needed to walk in obedience. True worship required more than just words, it required action. He reminded them that God would judge the nations for their treatment of his people. The day of the Lord was coming, a day of reckoning when justice would be served. The people felt both a sense of urgency and reassurance. They knew that God was their defender. In the midst of this promise of restoration, the people were reminded to reflect on their past. They had strayed from God's ways. They had worshipped false idols and neglected their covenant with him. But now was the time to turn back. They needed to live in such a way that honored the God who had saved them. Joel reminded them again of the importance of a sincere heart. It was not enough to simply go through the motions of worship. They needed to truly seek God, not only in times of trouble but in times of peace. As the days passed, the the people began to experience a profound change. The joy of the Lord filled their hearts. They rejoiced in the restoration of their land, but more importantly, they celebrated the restoration of their relationship with God. The once broken people began to sing praises and dance in the streets. They shared in the abundance God had provided and looked forward to the future with hope. In the final verses of Joel, the prophet spoke of an even greater promise. He declared that God would dwell among his people. He would be a refuge for them, a stronghold in times of trouble. The presence of the Lord would bring security and peace. The people felt a deep sense of gratitude. Their hearts swelled with love for the God who had not abandoned them. As Joel concluded his message, he left the people with a powerful reminder. Everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. This proclamation echoed through the generations, reminding them that salvation is available to all who seek him with a sincere heart. The moral lessons of Joel echo loudly throughout time. First, we are called to repentance. When we stray from God, we must turn back with genuine hearts. Second, we learn of God's compassion. He is ready to forgive and restore us when we seek him sincerely. Third, we are reminded of the importance of faithful worship. Our actions must align with our words, reflecting a true relationship with our Creator. As we reflect on Joel's message today, we can find encouragement in the knowledge that God is always faithful. No matter how dire our situation may seem, he invites us to return to him. He promises to restore what has been lost and to fill our lives with hope and abundance. In our own lives, we may feel the weight of challenges. There are times when we feel barren and empty, just like the land of Judah. Yet, like the people of Joel's time, we can turn our hearts back to God. He longs to revive our spirits and bless us in ways we cannot imagine. God calls us to trust in his faithfulness. He is a God of restoration, a God who sees our struggles and walks with us through them. We can take comfort in knowing that even in our darkest moments, the light of his love will shine through. Let us call upon the name of the Lord, embracing his promises and living in the joy of his presence. As we close our reflection, remember that God is always ready to receive you. No matter your past or present struggles, his arms are open wide. He invites us to a life of fullness, where we can experience his grace and mercy anew each day. Let us walk forward in faith, knowing that with God, all things are possible.